There are places that feel wrong the moment you step inside them. Not dangerous exactly, not even abandoned, just wrong. As if the building itself is holding its breath. The Harrowby Seaview Hotel was like that. By the time I took the night porter job there, it had already lost most of its guests. In summer, the place still filled with older couples and the occasional family who didn't mind peeling wallpaper or the smell of damp in the hall carpets. But in winter, when the sea winds hit the cliffs and the town emptied out, the hotel became something else entirely. A shell. A giant wooden shell full of creaks, stale perfume, and locked doors. I started in November. The manager, a narrow-faced man named Mercer, hired me because I was cheap and willing to work nights. He gave me 3 rules on my first shift. First, never leave the front desk unattended for more than 10 minutes. Second, if any guest complained about crying in the East Wing, apologize and offer them a room change. Third, no matter what I heard, I was not to go near room 12 after midnight. I laughed when he said that. I thought it was his idea of humor. He didn't laugh back. Room 12 is sealed, he said. Has been for years. Old pipe damage. You hear something? You ignore it. He slid the register toward me and walked away before I could ask anything else. That first week was quiet. Quiet enough that I started to understand why old buildings make people uneasy. Silence in a modern place feels empty. Silence in an old place feels occupied. Every sound stood out. The hiss of the radiator behind the desk. The soft thud of waves below the cliff road. The elevator cables groaning though nobody had called the lift. Most nights, around 1 or 2 in the morning, I'd take a torch and walk the corridors. The East Wing was always colder. Not dramatically colder, just enough that you'd notice it in your hands. Room 12 was at the far end of that corridor. Unlike the other doors, it had no number plate, just a pale rectangle where one had been. Someone had painted over the keyhole years ago. The door frame showed a hairline crack in the wallpaper beside it, as if the wall itself had shifted. The first time I stood outside it, I heard nothing. The second time, I heard what I thought was water dripping. The third time, I heard humming. Very soft. A child's voice, maybe. Slow and tuneless. I backed away so quickly I nearly dropped the torch. The next morning, I told Mercer. He stared at me for a long time and then asked one question. What time? About 1:30. He looked tired more than frightened. If it happens again, do not stand outside the door. That room isn't empty, is it? It is sealed, he said. That is all you need to know. And that should have been enough. I should have let it go. But people don't do well with locked doors and unfinished answers. 3 nights later, a guest from room 8 came down to the desk. He looked embarrassed. I'm sorry, he said, but is there a child on this floor? No. I could hear someone singing. Been going on 20 minutes. I offered him a room on the west side, exactly as Mercer had told me to do. The man accepted without argument, but before he went upstairs, he leaned closer and lowered his voice. It sounded, he said, like she was singing underwater. After that, I started asking questions around town. Most people just shrugged when I mentioned the hotel. One woman at the bakery crossed herself. An old man in the pub told me the Harrowby had always been unlucky, built too close to the cliff, built over older foundations, built, according to his grandmother, where there had once been a house that burned. But it was the woman in the antique shop who gave me the first useful answer. There was a girl, she said. This would have been 1974, maybe 1975. Went missing from the hotel in winter. Not a local girl. Guests from the city, I think. Missing how? She looked toward the shop window before answering. Vanished overnight. Parents woke up and she was gone. Police searched the hotel, the shore, the town. Never found her. What was her name? I think it was Elsie. That night, I went through the old storage room behind reception. Hotel records, bills, damp boxes of reservation slips. At the bottom of a warped filing cabinet, I found a stack of newspapers tied with string. One headline stopped me cold. Child missing from Seaview Hotel. The article was water-stained but readable. A 9-year-old girl named Elsie Vale had disappeared from her family's room during a January storm. Police suspected sleepwalking at first, then abduction. No body. No arrest. No answers. There was a photo, grainy and small. A thin girl with dark hair and a serious expression, wearing a coat buttoned to the throat. And in the background of the photo, just behind her shoulder, was the hallway of the East Wing. The next shift, I took the article with me. At 12:47 a.m., the humming began. Not faint this time, clear. A child's voice from the East Corridor, singing the same 3 or 4 notes over and over. I should have stayed at the desk. Instead, I took the torch and walked toward it. The air in the corridor felt wet, almost fogged, and the smell hit me halfway down. Salt water and mildew. The humming stopped the moment I reached room 12. Then came 3 gentle knocks from the other side. I don't know why I answered. Maybe because fear does strange things to your manners. I knocked back once. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then I heard a small voice, so close it could have been right against the wood. Did they find me? I stumbled backward. My torch beam shook across the wall. The temperature had dropped so fast I could see my breath. Who's there? I said, though I already knew. No answer. Then, lower now, almost a whisper. It's dark. I ran. I wish I could tell you I handled it better than that. I didn't. I ran all the way back to the desk and stayed there until dawn with every light on. The newspaper spread in front of me like it was proof I hadn't imagined it. Mercer arrived at 7. He took one look at my face and said, "You spoke to it." To her. He closed his eyes. "There was never supposed to be another voice," he murmured. "I demanded the truth. This time he gave it to me. Or enough of it." The hotel had changed owners many times. Mercer's uncle had run it in the 70s. During renovations in 1989, workers discovered that the wall behind room 12 was thicker than it should have been. There was a gap inside it. Not a room, more like a crawl space, sealed up badly and hidden behind later plasterwork. They found a child's shoe inside. Nothing else, no body, no bones, no explanation anyone could admit to. The wall was closed again. Quietly. No police report Mercer would show me, no newspaper follow-up. Just silence and a warning passed from one manager to the next. If the girl was there, leave her there. "Why?" I said. His face hardened. "Because after they opened it, the noises got worse." That should have stopped me. It didn't. The next night I brought tools. Not many. Just a flathead screwdriver, a small hammer, and enough bad judgment to ruin my life. At 1:12 a.m., the humming started again. I went to the east wing, article folded in my pocket, torch under one arm. The corridor was freezing. Condensation glistened on the wallpaper. The voice behind the door was clearer now. Not humming. Crying. I jammed the screwdriver into the seam where the painted-over lock had been. The wood was old and softer than it looked. Chips splintered away. My hands shook so badly I kept missing. "Please," the voice whispered. I forced the tool deeper, braced my shoulder and shoved. Something snapped. The door opened inward about an inch, then stuck. A gust of air rolled out, air so cold and stale it smelled buried. I pushed harder. The gap widened just enough for the torch beam to slip through. At first, all I saw was dust. Then wallpaper. Old wallpaper, older than the hall outside, patterned with tiny blue flowers. A narrow bed frame. A child's suitcase with rusted clasps. And on the far wall, words scratched over and over into the plaster. "I am here. I am here. I am here." My throat closed up. There was no body, no bones, no remains. But on the bed sat a little girl, hands folded in her lap. Just there. Real enough that my mind rejected her on sight. She raised her head and looked directly at me. "Did they find me?" she asked again. I couldn't speak. She stood slowly. Water pattered from the hem of her coat onto the floorboards, though there had been no water there a second earlier. Then she said the words I still hear when I wake in the dark. "He put me in the wall." The hotel groaned around us. Not creaked, groaned, as if the whole building had shifted its weight. The corridor lights went out. I was left with only the torch, its beam jerking wildly as I staggered back from the doorway. When the light hit the wall beside room 12, I saw handprints appearing in the damp plaster. Small handprints, one after another, climbing upward. Then a second set, larger, adult. I don't remember getting downstairs, only fragments. The desk telephone swinging off the hook, the front doors blown open by wind, Mercer shouting my name from somewhere far away. By morning, the police were there. This time, the wall behind room 12 was fully broken open. Inside the crawl space, beneath collapsed lath and decades of dust, they found her. Elsie Vale, or what was left. And with her, hidden deeper in the cavity, they found a silver hotel badge belonging to a maintenance man who had died in 1982. Mercer later told me the man had worked at the hotel the winter Elsie vanished. Questioned and dismissed. Never charged. He had no family left alive. No one to deny it. The papers called it a tragic historical discovery. A long-buried crime finally uncovered. They didn't mention the handprints. They didn't mention the water. And they definitely didn't mention what happened after. The Harrowby Seaview shut down that spring. Safety issues, officially. Cliff erosion. Structural concerns. The building still stands, though every year it leans a little more toward the sea. People ask whether the noises stopped after Elsie was found. I usually tell them yes. It's easier. But that's not the truth. A month after the police sealed the hotel, I went back one last time to collect a box I'd left in the staff room. Mercer refused to come in with me. He waited by the car, smoking with both hands. The place was silent. No humming, no crying, just wind through cracked window frames. I got my box and headed for the lobby. As I passed the East Wing corridor, I made the mistake of looking down it. Room 12 was gone. The whole section of wall had been stripped back to studs and plaster. Open, empty. And yet at the far end of the hall, standing where the door had once been, was a little girl in a dark coat. Not wet this time. She looked calm, almost relieved. I thought for one mad second that she might wave goodbye. Instead, she lifted one arm and pointed to the wall opposite. I turned the torch. There, half hidden beneath peeling paper, were words scratched into the plaster in deep, uneven lines. Not a child's handwriting this time. She was not alone. When I looked back, the corridor was empty. The police searched again after I reported it. They found nothing. No second body. No hidden chamber. No evidence of anyone else. Maybe there was never anyone else. Maybe grief and fear can make patterns out of cracked plaster and old stains. Maybe that would be the sensible explanation. But I still think about the second set of handprints. And sometimes when storms come in from the sea, guests in the newer hotel up the road complain they can hear singing carried on the wind. Not crying, not anymore. Just singing. And every now and then someone swears they hear another sound beneath it. A knock from inside the wall.